This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Yesterday, Rabbi Yanki Danziger asked the following question. We learned that there are two practices, two ways to put on tefillin. Two minhagim, or two approaches to the method of putting on tefillin. The Rama brought a yesh mishakasav to put on the tefillin shel yad meyushav and tefillin shel rosh me'umad. And there, that's from the Agor in the name of the Zayar. The Rama says it is not our custom to do that. We do both standing. The Magen Avram says that the in-between a position would be to put it on sitting and the bracha standing. Which l'chayru would then mean you make the reverse order. You stand for the bracha, you then sit to put on the tefillin, right? The other way around. And the Eliyah Rabbah says, who's greater than Ram Shimshon Mikinoin? That you do everything standing. So the question is, in one shul, if you're an Ashkenazi, could you put on your tefillin Ashkenazi style? Or if you're a Sefardi, could you put on the tefillin Sefardi style? We know Rav Moshe Shita is that on Chol HaMoed, you cannot have in one shul in the open some people wearing tefillin, some people not wearing tefillin. Now, the basic rule of Lo Tisgodidu is there are two reasons for Lo Tisgodidu. Rashi in Yevamos Yud Gimel Amud says the reason for Lo Tisgodidu is it looks like there are two Torahs. It looks like God gave the Jewish people two religions. However, the Ram and according to that, if it's just a matter of minhag, we would not apply Lo Tisgodidu to matters of minhag. The Rambam says the reason for Lo Tisgodidu is because of machlokes. So, even if it's only minhag, if anything, it would even create greater machlokes if it's a matter of minhag. So I want to share with you, very briefly, I'll try to do it quick. There's a tshuva in the Heishiv Moshe regarding of Rav Moshe Halberstam, whether if you daven Nusach Ashkenaz and you're davening in a Sfard shul, do you say LeDavid by mincha, or do you do your own thing, or vice versa? Okay, so that's certainly a matter of minhag, and that is an issue of whether Lo Tisgodidu applies to LeDavid. So in the Isha Yisrael, he brings from the Kovitz Mevakshei Torah, the name of Shlomo Zalman, that if you usually say it by mincha and you're davening with the minhag that says it by mariv, you should do like the minhag of the tzibor. You should follow the minhag of the tzibor. Presumably, it's Lo Tisgodidu. In other words, even matters of minhagim, you should do what the tzibor does. In Rav Moshe Halberstam, he goes through the sugya of Lo Tisgodidu, and he says this is a very prevalent shaila regarding many, many issues. And he says regarding LeDavid, everyone should follow their minhag, their own personal minhag. Do whatever you want. You daven Asher, daven a Sfard shul, so don't say it by mincha, and you say it privately by marav. That's his conclusion. This, one of the main maramakomis of the subject, is the Magen Avram in Siman Tav Tzadi Gimel Sivkat and Vav. The Magen Avram seems to vacillate. He says something which is only a matter of minhag, we don't say Lo Tisgodidu. And something that you could say, you're not mechavein to avoid Isser Malacha, there's no Lo Tisgodidu. And he says, you know what? There is Lo Tisgodidu. So the question is, when the Magen Avram is chayzer and he says, no, there is Lo Tisgodidu, does he mean there's Tisgodidu even on something where you're not mechavein for a davar Isser? Or does he mean there's even Lo Tisgodidu on minhagim? So that's the shaila the poskim have when the Magen Avram retracts and he says there is Lo Tisgodidu. The Magen Avram talks about two cases. He says by minhag there's no Lo Tisgodidu, and by something that you're not concerned for a davar asr there's no Lo Tisgodidu. And then he says, you know what, there is. Does he mean there is by something where you're concerned for a davar isr, or even by minhag? The Chasam Sofer Shita is that even by minhag there's Lo Tisgodidu. But some poskim explain the Magen Avram that he's only chayzer by something that you're not mechayin for a dvar isser. But regarding minhagim, the Magen Avram would conclude like his original shita that there's no Lo Tisgodidu by minhag. That's the shita of the Esha Avram Abuchach. So the Ramosha Halberstam wants to say it's taloi on the machlokes rishonim that we mentioned earlier. If the reason for lois Tisgodidu is like Rashi, that we don't want it to look like two Torahs, so then there's no lois Tisgodidu by minhag. But if it's because we don't want to cause machlokes, then there would be lois Tisgodidu. Now the Ramah writes later on regarding Sfira, you should not have in one city some people doing one way and some people doing another way. So that seems to blow the whole thing out of the water, that there's lois Tisgodidu even by minhag. One second. Let me just read this. That seems like there's lois Tisgodidu even by minhag. Then the Ramosha Haberstam wants to say that this that we're choishesh for machlokes even by minhag, that's only by a minhag that it hasn't been definitively decided, okay, you could do like A, you could do like B. Meaning that's only something that is sort of, we leave it to your discretion how you should conduct yourself. However, those minhagim that are already hukba'u, Ashkenazim do like this, Sefardim do like that, it's not going to lead to machlokes because it's long been decided that this group does this way, that group does that way. By the way, he brings another maramakim. We know that the second night of Yom Tif of Sukkot, there's a shaila, do you first say Leishev or do you first say Shachianu? He said, the Mishna Berura says in one sukkah you can't have different people doing different things. Maybe because there it's not really decided. It's not really like, it's not like Ashkenazim do A and Sefardim do B. It's sort of, it's up for grabs still. He brings from the Yismach Moshe that there's lois Tisgodidu if somebody puts on Tefillin and Chol Hamoed in a shul that the minhag is not to. By chilukei minhagim, we don't say lois Tisgodidu. No, this everyone would say lois Tisgodidu. Why? Because it's a minhag hanoigea ledvar iser. It might be a dvar iser. In other words, it's very interesting. Legabe tefillin, it might be something which is aser to put on tefillin and Chol Hamoed. Therefore, says the Moshe Haberstam, even Rab Moshe, who says that there's lois Tisgodidu on tefillin on Chol Hamoed, that's because tefillin on Chol Hamoed might be a dvar iser if you're not supposed to wear it, and vice versa. And then he brings, but Rav Moshe we know says that if you're and people are not careful about this. If you daven Ashkenaz in a Sfard shul, or people daven Sfard in an Ashkenaz shul, and it comes to Tachnon, so the if you're davening Ashkenaz, you put your head down right away. People daven Sfard, they're starting to clap. Why? Because maybe they feel they're davening a nusach, they have more chatam, whatever it is, but they're not. The Rav Moshe says you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to publicly show that you're doing something different than the tzibur. So that means Rav Moshe holds even by minhag. That's a matter of minhag. It's not a matter of isra v'het. That means Rav Moshe is going like Chassam Sofer. That even by a matter of minhag, there's an issue of lois Tisgodidu. Says Rav Moshe Halberstam, that's because it's public. But legabe leDavid, where it's minhag and nobody knows what you're doing. Nobody knows you're saying leDavid, you're not saying leDavid. Maybe you're saying Pitamak Tyrus again. So Rav Moshe Haberstam says, even Rav Moshe would say regarding leDavid, you could do whatever you want, not like Rav Shlomo Zalman. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, follow the minhag of the tzibur. I would assume Rav Shlomo Zalman says, follow the minhag of the tzibur, not because it's lois Tisgodidu, because the whole Indian of leDavid, it's not mamish, it's not a chiyuv, it's not part of matbea shetavu by chachamim. It's a very, very late addition. It's in a certain way, it's like saying Tehillim at the end of davening. So do what the tzibur is doing. But the conclusion of the Rav Moshe Halberstam is even Rav Moshe, who by matters of minhag says there's an issue of lois Tisgodidu, L'chayra, he says Rav Moshe would say by leDavid Hashem there's no lois Tisgodidu. So the question is, what would Rav Moshe say about an Ashkenazi putting on tefillin his way by Sefardim and vice versa? I mean, I can't imagine Rav Moshe would say this is a good thing to do because it's a matter of minhag which is public. It's So put on your tefillin outside. That's what I would think. That Rav Moshe would say, you're dealing with the Tisgodidu over here. Lamaisa, Rav Moshe Halberstam probably would say it's okay because it's a matter of minhag. It's not a matter of isser, malacha. Meaning, it's a matter of minhag that's not noigea le'isser. It's not osir to put on tefillin standing or sitting. It's a matter of whether you're going to follow the reasoning of the Zayar, or you're going to say the Zayar holds that you could put it on standing. So I would say Rav Moshe Halberstam would say it's okay, and Rav Moshe would say put on the tefillin privately. That's what I would think. Yeah, but probably legabe tefillin on Chol Hamoed as well, right?
Nobody puts on tefillin on Chol Hamoed. You get stoned if you do that.
I'm saying, but in America as well, in most shuls, they're not makbid that people put on tefillin Chol Hamoed sit behind the mechitza. It's the same thing. Why? Ish kol yoshvein of tasa. But l'maisa, in my yeshiva, they're very makbid, and in our shul, we also, if somebody wants to put on tefillin, you do it behind the mechitza. But l'maisa, when it comes to Ashkenazim, Sefardim, Tefillin, I've never seen anywhere. Whatever I'm telling you now is, what should be in an idyllic laboratory of, we'll make the Sefardim put out. Realistically, nah, it ain't gonna happen anywhere that you're gonna. But I would think that if you're an Ashkenazi, you have davening Sephardi shul, I would say probably, if you want to follow Rav Moshe, it would probably make sense to put the tefillin on outside. Anyway, the Arizal says you should put on the tefillin outside of and then walk in.
You put them on the home anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're in the chutzah.
So anyway, you're putting it on. You're not putting it on in the shul. But to go into the shul, I mean that's a chutzpah. You're going to go into a Sephardic shul where they b'chlal hold you should put on the tefillin in the shul, and you're going to put it on like an Ashkenazi. No, you can't do that. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful day.
Who is this Moshe Halberstam?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.